Well, welcome to Donington Park here for the GB4 Championship, technically the first race of the weekend here at Donington. We did have the first race of the day earlier on. That was actually the first race that was cancelled from Silverstone a few weekends ago. Great win for Tom Mills, Colin Queen pushing him all the way with Fortec, and Cooper Webster getting the fastest lap, putting in a great performance for Evans GP as well. That is the top three as this race will start on the grid in a little while. But first of all, let's see the highlights from that race earlier as Colin Queen pushed Tom Mills all the way here at Donington Park.
Highlights from round 4 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Tom Mills would start from pole position and Colin Queen would close in on the run down towards the first corner at Redgate. Plenty of side-by-side throughout the field, including one moment for the KMR sport car of Clifford would run wide going through that first corner out into the gravel before rejoining behind Lee at the back of the field. as they would head their way through the Craner curves. It was race leader Tom Mills just about hanging on, as it was Colin Queen fighting all over the rear end. Going through the old hairpin, it was pretty tight. Colin Queen would get a run up the hill towards McLean's, and on the end of the first lap, it was just about Tom Mills holding on for the race lead. Sid Smith and Harry Reynolds would also battle it out for 6th position on the race down towards the start-finish straight, with Sid Smith just about working his way through before dropping back. Then there was McNeely getting past the likes of Fairburn, working his way up the order into 5th position as they would race their way through. Bit of a moment for Ruhan Alva as he would come through the old hairpin, skipping up over the gravel before rejoining after losing a couple of positions. Meanwhile, the fight for the top 3 was absolutely on fire. Tom Mills just hanging on to the race lead, Colin Queen all over the rear end, Cooper Webster also keeping them quite close for company. No switches as they would head on to the final lap of the race, Kilcarney having an issue going through the old hairpin and running out wide and over the gravel trap. Coming to a stop, that was where his race would end. However, at the top 3, there was no major switches. It was Tom Mills coming through the final corner to take his 3rd victory of the season and extend his championship lead over Colin Queen and Cooper Webster.
So a decent race earlier on, Colin Queen pushing Tom Mills all the way, but Cooper Webster, fastest lap, and he was there, wasn't he? I mean, he had good pace. Do you think that, he was catching them because of maybe, when two drivers are battling it out at the front, Piers, they are slowing each other down in a way because you're attacking and defending while someone else is just sort of racing their own race behind?
I don't know, actually. I think Colin Queen Cooper Webster genuinely had some really good pace. He was right there. He actually closed the gap towards the end of the race, and Tom Mills wouldn't have been leaving any in reserve because he knew that Colin Queen was right there. So any mistake or any lack of pace, and he would have been vulnerable. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Colin and that Evans GP team, who are new to this year, are going to be able to step forward potentially even more than the other teams who were here, Fortec and of course KMR Sport, who were here last year. Might be able to take a step forward and maybe potentially be the fastest driver. We also heard after the race that he was saying, I was keeping within track limits, and maybe the other drivers weren't as well. So potentially some penalties might come into it later on this weekend if things don't change.
Yeah, a little bit of drama there, and obviously that was the first race from Silverstone that should have happened on the Saturday when it was very, very wet in Silverstone, which means 2 drivers actually that are here this weekend to race at Donington couldn't participate. Kai Darianani, who we'll hear from in just a little while, he's a brand new driver to the grid, but also teaming up with Harry Reynolds at Elite Motorsport is Josh Irfan. Josh is just here now, so we'll bring him in to have a little bit of a chat. And you sat out Silverstone, which is why you sat out the first race this morning, but you're back here at Donington. How are you feeling going around this track here? Because it's a brilliant day for racing.
Yeah, I really like the GP circuit. It's nice that it's really nice and warm, and the weather's going to be good, unlike Silverstone. But yeah, looking forward to first race where I'm starting 5th. So yeah, should be good.
And obviously, you weren't at Silverstone because you were racing elsewhere. How is it going? Because you're getting a lot of seat time.
So I was racing at Snetton, in the F4, but yeah, it didn't go too well. Qualifying went okay. I think I qualified starting 8th for first race, but unfortunately got tagged in the first race. But the first race will also be cancelled and will be moved to Donington at the end of the year.
Oh, right, okay.
Great to see that you're racing in lots of different cars. Good experience to get a lot of track time. Are you finding it difficult getting between 2 different cars, or maybe even 3 if you've been testing other things?
They're quite similar, to be fair, because they're both similar in lap time as well. Maybe a tiny bit different. This is a little bit quicker around the corners, so you can carry quite a bit more speed, but it doesn't take too long to adjust.
And what about your driving technique? Is there any specific things you have to do for one car or for different cars and maybe for the GB4 car?
I think you have to hit the brake a little bit harder in this, and apart from that, I think that's it.
Well, looking forward to seeing how you get on later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Josh. We'll let you crack on. And obviously, I mentioned there's a brand new driver with Evans GP, the Australasian Malaysian hookup team. I don't know if that's what they're calling it. 3rd driver for them. The teams are allowed a maximum of 3 drivers, and it's Kai Darianani. And I spoke to him yesterday as he got to grips with his GB4 kart for the very first time. So Kai, this is your first race weekend here in the GB4 Championship. What have you done so far? What's your experience in racing to date?
So far in racing, not a lot, but I did do the UAE F4 Championship early this year. I'm currently in the British F4 Championship as well with Virtuosi Racing, and now with Evans GP for 3 rounds in the GB4 Championship. So yeah. How
did this link up come together with Evans?
Oh, it's because my manager knows the team boss, and we thought it'd be a really good idea to get some experience racing and get in the car, and yeah.
So ahead of this weekend, obviously you've done the practice sessions so far. How much of experience have you had in this car? Or has it just been this weekend in Donington?
Yeah, it's literally been yesterday was the first time in the car, and today of course as well. But it's coming along pretty well. Pace is looking better and better. Bit unfortunate with the red flag at the end, as I was on a push lap on new tires, but it's coming along.
Excellent. So you're doing this round at Donington, then back at Donington later in the year, and then Brands Hatch as well. So sort of limited participation in this series, but still lots of data and lots of race experience you can get. What are you hoping for? What do you think is achievable?
I think definitely points are definitely on play here, maybe even some podiums. But yeah, it really just depends on how quickly I can get up to speed, which I'm confident I'll be able to do a good job with the team. I've got a lot of support and a lot of help from Josh Evans and engineers as well. Yeah.
Well, obviously we'll see as the weekend goes on how you get to grips. And finally, what's your dream in racing? Everyone seems to have a path they want to go on. And what's your end goal?
End goal is Formula One. Okay. So everything that I'm doing now is towards that sort of end goal, and trying my best and putting everything I have into it.
Yeah, GB4, great place to start on that path. And do you have a racing hero?
My favorite F1 driver is Daniel Ricciardo. He's not racing right now, obviously not got a seat, but yeah.
I'm sure he'll be back at some point. He's too big of a character not to be back at some point. But Kai, it's been great getting to know you to start off with, and I'm sure we'll talk more as this season goes on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to hear from a new driver on the grid this weekend. We're now here at the Elite Warning with Harry Reynolds. Harry, we're at Donington now. You had a great race at Silverstone. Just talk to us about how it was to win your first race in the GB4 Championship.
Yeah, it was a great win. Obviously most of it under safety car, which was quite good for me, but to get that first win under my belt is great, and hopefully now into Donington it can keep the momentum going.
Do you reckon it's given you a bit of extra confidence to sort of push on for the rest of the year? And what are your expectations going forward this weekend and maybe even towards the end of the season?
Well, it definitely gives us confidence going forward. Now we know we can win, so as a team now we'll just keep pushing and keep going forward. And for the rest of the season we're obviously going for wins. We're going for that championship. Yeah.
Well, it's great to hear, and you've carried on with that good form, with a strong qualifying. Tell us about where you've qualified and how that sort of situates you for the races, and do you think you can have a good weekend this weekend at Donington?
Yeah, we're P4, so we're in a good place. I think that's my best qualifying, so we're right at the top end now, so yeah, we'll keep pushing, like I say, and yeah, go for that win.
And Donington is a different circuit to Silverstone. We mentioned it a little bit earlier on in the show, but Silverstone very open, very wide, a long circuit. Donington also pretty fast, but you've got that last sector. Is that sort of, you have to set the car up a bit differently, drive a bit differently potentially?
Yeah, it's got a lot of different types of corners where Silverstone is very high speed. Here it's got very changeable corners, so we've got to change our driving style throughout the lap, which makes it very interesting but very fun.
And have you driven all the circuits in testing this year so far? Where does Donington rate in your estimation?
Well, I've obviously driven them before in the past, in previous years. In the GB4 car, I would put it up there. I love all the tracks, all the MSV tracks and Silverstone, obviously. I'd have to put it top 3.
Great to hear from Harry Reynolds there, driving for Elite Motorsport. He's got a lot of friends and family who have come down from the Welsh coast near Pembroke to watch him race this weekend, and he starts P4, which gives him an amazing chance at getting on the podium. Now, we show you everything that happens on the track. We chat to drivers near the track, away from the track. I just want to show you some of the things you can do if you come to Donington Park or any of the other race weekends in the GB4 Championship. Loads of shopping, right? As well as ice creams and all the usual food and everything you can buy. I'm a huge fan of these prints here at the Cool Camel. You've got Lewis Hamilton there, looking resplendent, a kind of, well, I don't know, it's kind of a black, red and green version of his car there. Very, very classy indeed, and very reasonably priced, I think the proprietor would agree. Loads of other things as well, loads of merchandise, and actually, if we spin round, cameraman Ben, some pretty nice cars. Now, I don't think these are for sale, but they certainly garner a lot of interest. There's been, incredible amounts of photos taken of these cars. And earlier on, I saw some lads kicking a football around very close to a Ferrari, which I don't think is a very, very good idea at all. But anyway, these are some of the things you can do at Donington Park this weekend. Maybe you're coming down tomorrow, but that's enough away from the track. Let's take a look at the track we're racing on here in the GB4 Championship this weekend.
Well, to Leicestershire and just about at the Derbyshire border as we head to the 2.5 mile circuit of Donington Park. It was opened back in 1931 and is one of the oldest circuits in Europe. It is the oldest circuit in the United Kingdom still in use. An absolutely fantastic venue, full of history and full of challenging corners. Big overtaking opportunities in the likes of Redgate, McLean's, Coppice, the Foggett ES, Goddard's, etc. And of course, for the brave, down into the old hairpin. The Wheatcroft Straight is the start-finish straight up towards Redgate and then down this enormous hill, 2.5 miles in length, but so much elevation. You get a real good look of it here as we come down the hill, through the Craners, through the old hairpin, and then we begin that climb all the way up through Starkey's Bridge, Schwantz Curve, up towards McLean's. It is a fantastic circuit for racing, and certainly one that will challenge all of our drivers this weekend.
Well, I'm now here at the KMR Sport awning with Jack Clifford, who I've been watching on Instagram between races, and it seems like you've been doing a bit of exploring in the UK.
Yeah, I've tried to be a bit of a tourist in between races. So just last week I visited a castle that wasn't far from where I live called Hampton Court Castle. Lovely big building, built about 300 years before Australia was even discovered. So yeah, lots of history in this country, and it's while I'm here, you know, I've got to experience the country because I'm living here full time for the 8 months that the season is on for. So yeah, trying to be a tourist as much as I can.
A lot of new things to get used to. How does Macca's compare? I'm just translating it to Australian for you. That is McDonald's for anyone watching in the UK. How does that translate over here?
Well, Macca's we call it at home, but it's definitely a lot better here than McDonald's in Australia. Sorry, Mr. McDonald's, but we've got some research to do.
Yeah, apologies to Ronald. Obviously, Hungry Jack's as well. That doesn't exist here. Have you got used to that?
I haven't tried Hungry Jack's at home, actually. I haven't had Red Rooster, Hungry Jack's, Burger King. I haven't tried any of that. Okay. Trying to be an athlete.
Okay, where's next on the list of places in the UK to visit? Because, I mean, you know, compared to Australia, lots of short distances if you want to see cool things.
Yeah. I'd like to spend a little bit of time in London as well, because I've spent a fair bit of time around the countryside, the castles and stately homes. So I'd like to see some of the things that London has to offer.
Excellent. Well, you're actually playing a bit of a tour guide this weekend because just bringing in your dad, Andrew, who's here over from Australia, and it must be nice for you to not have to get up in the middle of the night to watch your son race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not much fun getting up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning than getting up at 7 and going to work.
Yeah, not ideal at all.
Yeah, and also you've travelled over this time out. It's a lot of effort to get here, but well worth it hopefully so far.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. Unfortunately, Jack's grid spot doesn't reflect the time. He did a respectable time, but as the season goes on, everyone gets better and closer. So unfortunately, the grid spot's not good. The time's respectable, so but he'll get there.
We were chatting just a moment ago the fact that, you know, when you were deciding what to do for this season, you were looking at coming and racing in the UK. You chose GB4 partly because of the coverage, and what other things brought you to the GB4 Championship?
Bang for your buck, seat time, track time, dealing with a far higher level of competition and professionalism, and just 10 times more experience than what we would have got in Australia.
Excellent stuff. And I'll end with you, Jack, because it must be really special for you to have your dad here. I'm sure you're used to it in Australia, but to come over, as you've said, and live in this country across the other side of the world for 8 months, it's a big deal at your age, and it must be nice to have family here.
It is. It's been a big move, and I hadn't seen my parents for 3 months until he came just a couple of days ago, so it's awesome having him here. It makes the lonely times not so lonely. Never a dull moment, so it's really good. So the team, effectively, when my parents aren't around and I've made the 18,000 kilometre move, it's the team's sort of been my family in England now, and some people where I live have taken me under their wing as well, which is good. So it's awesome to have Dad at the track here with his advice as well.
That's good to hear. Jack, best of luck this weekend. And can I just recommend, I'm sure Piers will back me up here, just down the road, Alton Towers. What do you reckon? That for your next place to go?
Yeah, Alton Towers is a good thing to do.
If you like roller coasters, there you go. Watch out on Jack's Instagram, because next up, he'll be on a roller coaster.
Let's ride around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit on board the Fortec car of Colin Queen. A downhill run to turn 1 of Redgate. Using all of the road on the left-hand side, you'll see he uses the pit exit to open up the entry. Down to 4th gear, quite a fast apex here, and watch out for track limits on the exit, as we now have a long run down to the old hairpin, through Hollywood on the right, just staying right, trying to minimise any steering input. Left of Craner curves, keep it left, to open up the entry into the old hairpin very fast, down just 1 gear, all the curb on the entry, all the curb on the exit. We now rise up through Starkeys, over to the right-hand side, just setting ourselves up through Schwantz for a good entry into McLean's. McLean's is off camber and on the crest of a hill, so it can often push you wide, as we've seen Colin's done that time. Then using all the curb on the left-hand side to open up Coppice Corner. This is a long exit here, so trying not to run too wide. And now we have the long run down past the exhibition centre. All we have to think about now is the braking point for Fogarty, which is a very, very fast and bumpy chicane. braking down 2 gears, 4th gear, 1 apex, 2 apexes, 140 kilometers an hour through there, and then just 2 more sharp corners to go. The first is the Melbourne hairpin, braking downhill very late down to 2nd gear, late apex for a good run out of the corner, trying to minimize wheel spin. Car looks planted through there, Ford technically doing a good job on the setup. And the final corner, Goddard's again off camber, blind on entry, trying to hook the curb on the inside if you can, slightly missing it this time out, and then a good exit out of the last corner to finish our lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit.
Well, here we are again in the assembly area for race 1 of the Donington race weekend. There have been, has been 1 race already this weekend. That was finishing off things from Silverstone. And we just need to talk about that race, Piers, because actually we heard from Cooper Webster at the end of that race. He wasn't very happy coming P3 for Evans GP, not very happy with the track limits from Colin Queen and Tom Mills. And actually there's been a penalty handed down to Colin Queen. Tom Mills has no penalty, which means that he's dropped down a place from that the first race. It was a 5-second penalty, right? And that is track limits. So for people watching who maybe don't understand what the track limits means, what is that?
Well, there's a rule, of course, in motorsport to keep you within the circuit, which means that you're allowed to use all the circuit up to and including the white lines and the curves, but you're not allowed to go over it. If you're seen to exceed track limits more than, I think, 3 times, you get 1 warning, a final warning, and then a penalty. And clearly, Colin, unfortunately, left the circuit too many times and got a penalty for that, but still, because they were so far in the lead, the top 3, he had a 5-second penalty which put him down just 1 place. Cooper Webster promoted to 2nd place.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cooper was very outspoken about it afterwards. And I guess when you're following 2 guys around, you've got a great view of that. So I guess when you've been driving, there's probably been times where you're wondering what the people in front are doing. So I guess it's one of those things in racing. I was going to have a little chat with Colin, but he's just getting in his car there. I did have a chat with him on the way to the assembly area. And you know what? He said, if that's what happened, then fine. He was very, very chilled about it. He said, you know what? There's 3 more races this weekend.
Yep.
We're all good. So it's nice to know he's got that proper Californian laid-back vibe. So he's absolutely channeling what's going on at home. Piers, I just wonder if you could maybe take a look at the tyres here, because the tyres, they've been given a half extra set for this extra race in Silverstone. So, most people here look like they're just going on used tyres already.
Yeah, it looks like it. Of course, for a normal race weekend with 3 races, you'll get 6 tyres total, so 2 1.5 sets. So they'll normally put 4 new on for qualifying, then they'll have one of the 3 races where they can put 2 new left-hand sides, or 2 new tyres on. They normally put it on the left-hand side for clockwise circuits. This weekend, 4 races, so 2 full sets, 8 tyres. So I think most people are just keeping their newer tyres for tomorrow by the looks of it. The left-hand side tyres obviously get a lot less wear than the right-hand side tyres around this clockwise circuit at Donington Park. So they'll probably put those on tomorrow, but it's going to be interesting to see that if tyre strategy and tyre usage becomes an issue throughout the weekend, because if you use your tyres more aggressively, then by the end of the weekend you might be a bit slower.
Yeah, of course, Josh Irfan, one of the 2 drivers who will be on, I'm guessing, fresh tyres, be that he wasn't racing earlier on because he wasn't taking part at Silverstone. Actually, we've got a couple of team principals behind us here. Ollie Dutton, I've just seen the team principal for Fortec on the right-hand side there, speaking with Kevin Mills. Yeah, go and see if he wants to come over, Ollie Dutton. I'll tell you what, team morale is very important, and actually when you've got to, rebuild a car, when you've had problems with things like that, you've got to make sure, the team are in good spirits. And Ollie Dutton's just been buying the team ice creams. Kevin Mills from KMR Racing, will you be buying the team ice creams? I heard a rumour that Tom might be getting the ice creams in because of the good job that all the mechanics have done.
Well, Tom's got a little bet on if he wins, the truckie is going to buy the ice creams. I don't know why, but the truckie is offered to buy ice creams if we win a game.
Right, okay, good. I mean, we've seen good pace from your guys so far this weekend, but you've had a few issues with Tom's car that, got rectified last night, and certainly winning that first race this morning, proved worthwhile because the car looked great.
Yeah, we had to do an adapter and an engine overnight. It was a lot of work for the lads, and they really worked hard on that and finished it off this morning. And yeah, Tom did a job with it, and it was worthwhile, wasn't it? Probably the car, it's not quite as good as it was early in testing, so still a bit of balance to play with now. Colin's really quick and Webster, so I don't know, it's not an easy task anymore, so the championship is really close.
Yeah, Tom's really seemed to have found his feet. He's got a lot of confidence, of course, the only 2nd-year driver. It looks like he's just really nailing the laps. I mean, that last race he barely put a foot wrong.
Yeah, I think last year you would have seen him make a little error and ran wide, maybe lost a place or tried to do an overtake somewhere that wasn't really on. So it shows that the 2nd-year drivers, they do learn so much from the championship. I think seeing what Tom's doing this year, more drivers would look to stay in for a second year. I think is needed, you know, to go straight from this to GB4 to GB3. Sorry, possibly 2 years of this would be better. It's a better way to spend your money, so you're more prepared to move up. But each to their own, I guess.
Each to their own, indeed.
Yeah, we'll let you get on. Kevin Mills from KMR Racing there. And, you know, I was just saying there, I mean, Ollie Dutton was getting all the ice creams in there, but I think the mechanics in KMR are expecting the ice creams if Tom Mills wins. Nicholas Taylor, of course, is just walking behind us.
Grab him?
No, we won't grab him because obviously he's a driver coach for the Fortec cars.
Yep.
And I've just seen him going between the drivers here, so I don't want to sort of interrupt the preparations here with obviously the 2 Indian drivers, but also Colin Queen. For Colin Queen, you know, he's a driver that's been very, very quick, and he's come from other championships where he's proven himself already. He's been in the UK a little bit longer. He's not just come over to the UK from the States. To have Nicholas Taylor, the inaugural GB4 Championship, coaching you is a really big deal for him.
Oh, it must be great because, of course, Nicholas Taylor knows how to win at pretty much all of the circuits we go to this year. He was mega fast, probably the fastest or consistently one of the fastest drivers through last year. He's an intelligent guy, he's a nice guy as well, and to have that information not only from the team, Fortec Motorsport, with the setup, but also how to drive the car on that setup is really useful, and it's showing that Colin Queen is right up there with Tom Mills, who's a second-year driver, and I expect that Ruhan Alva and, of course, Aditya Kulkarni as well will come on as the season progresses and get close to the front.
Yeah, I think absolutely that's the case. We're just watching the drivers here now. I feel like it's warmer now. I don't know if it's because the sun's lower in the sky or something like that. But you know, these tyres are going to take a little bit less time to warm in. 34 degrees track temperature at the moment. Is that pretty much where you want it for racing in the UK?
I mean, it's about perfect for these cars, I think. I mentioned before the first race this morning, which was the Silverstone round, that potentially the tyres might not be their best until the end of the stint, and we saw that in qualifying. But in the race, they did their fastest laps, I think, about halfway through the race, which is fairly unusual for these GB4 cars, which don't work these Pirelli tyres too hard. So clearly the track temperature is allowing them to get up to temperature pretty quickly and allow them to push early on, and then potentially falling away a little bit. So the teams will be working hard to make sure they get the right tyre pressures, so the car is just where the drivers want it when they want it.
Excellent. I'm just going to walk in front of you here to Kai Derianani, who's making his debut in GB4, brand new on the grid this week. We're just going to have a quick word. Kai, how are you feeling ahead of the race? You all good?
Yeah, all good. Excited for my first race in GB4. Going to give it everything and have fun out there.
Excellent. I mean, what's the plan off the line? Just see how it goes and do your best, or have you got a plan in your mind?
Essentially, yeah, just drive as quickly as possible, try to make as few mistakes as possible, and see if I can make some overtakes as well.
Hey, sounds good to me. We'll let you continue your preparations for the race. Driving with Evans GP there, Kai Derianani, who's, I mean, come into this car and not had a lot of time in this GB4 car, and you know, I'm impressed as a non-driver to see, you know, some of these kids coming from karts and they get straight into these slicks and wings cars. I know, it's seriously impressive from the start. I mean, you know, you're a driver yourself. I mean, how long really do you want to be, how many sort of laps or how many, you know, days testing do you really want to be getting up to the level where you'd feel, you know, going into a race, you feel confident?
Well, we spoke to Harry Burgoyne Jr. just after the race this morning, and I asked him the same question. He said, yeah, it's just as many laps as possible is ideal because it is different to karting. He mentioned that karts are a lot easier to catch. If you have a slide, you can just catch it almost immediately, whereas in a car it's a lot bigger, it's got a lot more weight, and if a slide starts, it's a lot harder, or a lot more, you know, you have to be a bit more perfect to catch the slides. And I don't know, you want to be doing it like 10 days to be really in the car, to be really up there and feeling confident, because it is different. And you know, I went pretty much from karts to GB3, only doing a few races in some random cars, and it did take a while to get up to speed. But you do it almost feels like it does it without realising. You'll sort of do a few rounds later in the year and you're like, oh, you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, that's the way, isn't it? The more you do something, the more practice you get in,
exactly.
And you learn from the data as well. Let's keep walking. I can see a familiar face up here. I mean, we don't want to keep talking to Max Maserati because I feel like we give him almost too much airtime. But he was such a big character in the inaugural year of the GB4 Championship. We talked to Sid Smith earlier. I mean, maybe the race wasn't what he wanted, but we've certainly seen Fox Motorsport since they came into this championship. They're a team that have come in with this GB4 car, and actually, you know, along with Liam McNeely there, they've proven from a team point of view that they're getting used to this car and they're getting some pretty good results out of it.
Yeah, of course, Fox Motorsport have got a lot of experience in other categories, so they know what they're doing. Just getting used to the car itself and how it, you know, how to get the most out of it is something they're getting used to. But they seem to be on the pace already and doing a great job because they're, you know, Liam McNeely's been right up there. He of course won the race in the last time out, and also had a strong results throughout the season. And Sid's getting right up there as well. And considering Sid's basically not raced single seater slicks and wings, I don't think Liam has either.
I think Sid is a great example of someone that's really sort of taken to it really quickly. It's very impressive. Also, Fox, you'll remember if you watched any of the coverage last year, one of the first teams to get involved. So they've had maybe a little bit longer than some of the other teams. They announced their team and they announced their drivers at the very start during last year's season. And it just gives them longer to get more laps in to prepare more. Let's keep moving along here. Harry Burgoyne Jr., who you spoke to, Piers, at the end of the race before, and he is coached by a man wearing a coat. Now, I want you to pan across here, Ben, because Max Maserati, you'll remember him from last year in GB4. I mean, it's what, 21 degrees, Max, the track temperature 34 degrees, and you're wearing what I would describe as a December coat. What's the story?
Clearly, well, it was annoying Nick, so I just thought it would be fun to get under the skin of my championship rival from last year.
So you're saying the rivalry is still continuing off track this year. We had a little bit of a team karting event over Christmas, and there was still a rivalry there, and now it's gone into this year where you're both now sort of driver coaching because of your experience at GB4 last year. When's this going to end?
Oh yeah, the no budget rivalry continues. We'll find a way to keep battling it out. Clearly last year was enough for us. So this year we've come back coaching, and obviously Harry's been doing really well, and he beat 2 out of 3 of his drivers in the last race, so we're happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to driving, it must be, I think, really reassuring for a young driver to come in and have someone with your experience. I know you've raced against Piers before, but to come in having had such an exciting season last year, I think that's really good to have someone in their corner like yourself, and obviously I'm guessing you're seeing improvement constantly.
Yeah. I think it's especially for young Harry's is so early on in his career, and he's only 15. I think he's the only actual proper rookie in this championship. Everyone else has done at least a year or so of car racing. So with that in mind, he's performing extremely well, and you're seeing it session by session, him getting better, and his racecraft is phenomenal. Wherever he qualifies, he finds at least one place, and by one place, normally it's 2, 3, 4 up the grid by the end of the race. So. Really great at overtaking, and I think it helps us, last year being able to relay knowledge of when you're going into this situation, this is what's likely to happen. But he comes from karting, and he's got a very good karting pedigree, so he very much knows racecraft. It's more the sort of this will be this gear, the corner you take in this way, relaying that kind of information to try and speed up the learning process. Excellent.
Well, he's got a great coach in you, Max Maserati, the hottest man at Donington. And
Man's not hot.
I mean that very much in a warmth sense.
Yes.
Also got Thomas Lee here as well, who's doing very well, making some progress. Thomas, can I have a quick word? Are you good to say hi? How's it going? Because you're balancing your racing career with your business career, and you've got only a certain amount of time, and considering you're doing very well.
Well, I appreciate that. I have to say, very thankful to have a really great team, to support. And I got to say that, finally able to do the full season, for the GB4, and I'm very excited. I know I have 2 beautiful boys. They're back in the States, but, it's handful, like you said, with business, with family, and try to find time to do sim practice is also very hard. But I do have to say that I'll try to be a quick learner. So do my best, and against my biggest enemy is myself. So I'll do my best.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, and obviously you're getting slightly less track time as well than some of these drivers here. But I think you can see progress. What are your aims for the season? Doing the season is probably the first place, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. Again, it is my first time out in the UK, and being able to the first round 1 was in Donington Park, and then Silverstone, famous F1 track, and then now we're talking about one of the historic Donington Park. And I'd say, definitely gain a lot of experience, be patient, and hopefully I can catch up with all these pinnacle drivers, in the UK. So
no, it's all good. That's what you got to do. We'll let you get in the mood, and focus. But thank you very much for chatting to me. I don't know if we've got a slight delay here, Piers. It seems like they're holding us for a bit longer. Any information you've managed to garner from any of your friends in the paddock here?
It seems like there's a previous race. There's a few cars being retrieved, so hopefully they'll be retrieved fairly soon, and we'll get going shortly. But in the meantime, all the drivers, as you said, getting in the mood for their race. And just concentrating on what their driver coaches are telling them, or thinking about what they want to work on for this race. Some drivers drivers it will be, oh, I need to work on this corner. Some drivers, oh, I need to brake later. Some drivers it will just be, right, how am I going to win this race? I'm sure Colin Queen and Tom Mills, they both know they've got the pace up at the front. They're just going to be thinking, right, how am I going to beat these guys around me? Where's their weakness going to be? Am I going to attack at the start and then defend at the end, or am I going to sort of bide my time, let the tyres come in? And it's all these little bits and pieces. As we see one of the cars, I think that was probably caught up in that incident in the previous race driving past, so hopefully that's an indication we're going soon. But there's lots to think about, and also it differs depending on your position in the grid.
We're going to have one less car on the grid because Dylan Hotchin is unable to start the race, unfortunately. He's the car, very striking pink car with pink wheel rims, so you can't really miss him. You know, very family-based team. His dad's in charge, his sister's heavily involved. You'll have seen her a little bit earlier on in our coverage. Unfortunately, a broken tub is the issue. They are going to be able to replace it for tomorrow, but for people who don't understand what a broken tub is, it's not some kind of, well, I mean, I say it's not some kind of bucket, but it's kind of similar, so please explain.
Yeah, the tub is often sort of colloquially referred to as the main chassis of the vehicle. So it's from the driver forwards is mostly one piece of carbon fibre, and it's called a tub because it kind of looks like a bathtub. And then the gearbox and engine bolt onto the back of that, and then the wings and the wheels of course all go onto that as we hear the whistle going. But when you hit the ground too many times or hit curbs in the wrong way, it can sometimes crack the carbon fibre, and that is what's happened to Dylan Hotchin's car. So hopefully we'll see him out again tomorrow in a replacement tub, chassis or monocoque as you might call it. And
is that quite something that takes quite a long time? And they're going to be working.
Basically, you build the rest of the car around the tub. It's the central piece. So it's basically a full car rebuild.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that you will see some cars when they're going out, and you look at it, you go, hang on, that car's not going out to race in 5 minutes. But when they put the wheels on, it kind of, you go, okay, fine. But with that car, you could tell that wasn't going out. Anyway, it's the first round of Donington. It's the second race here today. Let's go racing.
GB4 Championship partnered by the BRDC, and yes, that might sound confusing because we were talking about round 4 earlier. It is round 7. As they were saying, the delayed race has been dealt with, and we are all eyes ahead. On the road, the 21 races to crown the GB4 champion of 2023. Will it be Tom Mills? Well, he's stepping towards it at the moment. He has an incredible 55-point championship lead after just 6 races. He has been phenomenal in this season, but he is being challenged. Trust me when I say that, because when we start talking about the starting grid, we're going to talk about a lot of consecutives here, because the top 3 have been phenomenal and they are getting faster and faster. Colin Queen and Cooper Webster are giving Tom Mills a very good run for his money. Whilst there were struggles in the previous race for Harry Reynolds and for Liam McNeely, 2 drivers focusing on the fight for the championship, we'll take a look at the grid. Tom Mills starting from his 5th consecutive pole position. Colin Queen starting from his 3rd consecutive front row start, and Cooper Webster from his 6th consecutive top 5 qualifying. Harry Reynolds, though, that race winner back in Silverstone, will start this race from 4th position, looking to try and go for another one, with Josh Irfan on his return starting from 5th. Liam McNeely, who came into this round as 2nd of the championship, will start this one from 6th position on the road, with Kulkarni starting from 7th. Ruhan Alva, who currently has his personal best qualifying, and that will change tomorrow when he starts from 4th position after a fantastic effort. Then Fairbairn Darianani will start from 10th position on his debut in the Evans Grand Prix machine, and then back in 11th position as we get down to those final positions on the grid. Jack Clifford, who had issues on the race start, coming through Redgate. Sid Smith starting from 12th after his joint personal best finish in the previous race. Harry Burgoyne Jr. starting from 13th position. Dylan Hotchin unfortunately not making it into the grid, as they were discussing in the assembly area, was originally provisionally starting from 14th position, and then Thomas Lee starting from 15th. The race about to get underway. Obviously, setting sun, warm track, tyres we've spoken about before. I kind of like the fact that they're the drivers that did the previous race, they're sticking with the same set of tyres for this for the most part. They're not changing them. They're keeping them. They're basically taking their pain early. It could be quite a difficult race when it comes to tyre management. Piers Pryor's in the commentary booth. I'm Lewis McGlade, by the way. And Piers, this is going to be interesting. Can Cooper Webster, can Colin Queen, can they do it? Can they beat Tom Mills?
The same three at the front of the field. It's all going to come down to who has the best start, I think, as is often the case in any racing, but especially single-seater slicks and wings racing. I was talking to a few of the drivers between the race this morning and now, and they're saying that the dirty air is not that strong, but just strong enough that means you can't get so close if the driver in front doesn't make a mistake. And that's exactly what we saw in the first race. Tom Mills, well, the first race of the weekend, it's actually the race from Silverstone, but you know, hopefully by the end of today we'll have passed that.
Just say round 4, it's easier.
Round 4, yes, this morning. But yeah, the reason that Colin Queen couldn't quite get up the inside or get a run is because just in those medium speed corners, so for example, Old Hairpin, McLean's Coppice, with the front wing, if you get close, you just lose a little bit of front downforce, which means that you haven't quite got the pace and you lose a little bit on the exit. But green flag at the back of the field means we're about to go racing.
Yeah, certainly so. 18 minutes goes back onto the board, expected around 10 or so laps of racing, might even be slightly more than that, depending on the speed. Tom Mills will take us away from pole position once again, but look at the start from Cooper Webster. He's already got past Colin Queen on the race down towards the first corner. It was a decent start as well for the Elite Motorsports car of Harry Reynolds, fighting their way through into the first corner. Colin Queen is going to lose out and drop back into third position, and right now Tom Mills is already starting to check out. Remember, in the early stages of the previous race, he was under an awful lot of pressure from Colin Queen, and he's not having quite the same feat from Cooper Webster as they go side by side down towards the Old Hairpin from about 6th position backwards. They start to go single file when everyone's through cleanly this time.
Yeah, everyone's through cleanly. It was 2 by 2 down the Craner curves. Harry Reynolds right on the back of Colin Queen and that 4th position now, so he's looking for to try and make up some positions and potentially get on the podium once again. We can see there going through the field, that is Irfan in the Elite Motorsport car, the number 15, just in the back of shot. He's having a strong race as well with McNeely just in front of him.
Yeah, Irfan obviously on his return, he did take part in the first round of the championship when we went racing at Donington Park. Actually has the same qualifying positions with a 5th and a 6th through that round as he has this weekend as well. So continuing on that good form, Cooper Webster though with a massive moment going for the funky. Yes, you saw that through the foreground. He might lose out to Colin Queen here. He's just about managed to keep hold of the car without going off the race circuit, but it's allowing Tom Mills to clear out. Harry Reynolds having to defend from Liam McNeely. Cooper Webster does keep Colin Queen at bay, but that was a very costly mistake from the Evans Grand Prix driver. And look at Tom Mills now, he's checking out.
Yeah, it's still Cooper Webster under pressure. We saw that mistake through Fogarty S is also behind Harry Reynolds. Had a slight slide and went on wide on the exit, which means he's under pressure from McNeely as well. But it's now Tom Mills' opportunity to pull away at 1 second after the first lap. He's going to be loving that. You see a dart to the inside from McNeely just trying to put off Harry Reynolds. It's now Tom Mills in the lead with then 2 for second place and 2 for 4th place.
Now, let's put yourself in this position in this race. If you're Colin Queen right now, is it full attack to try and get past Cooper Webster? Or are you thinking, look, Cooper Webster's fast enough right now. He set the fastest lap of the previous race. Let him try and close down to Tom Mills. Use that slipstream before that gap is too big to close down.
To be honest, I think this lot are potentially fighting amongst themselves. They're kind of thinking, maybe even by this stage of the season, that Tom Mills, second-year driver, looking very, very consistent. He might be champion-elect. Yeah. They're all fighting it out in the championship for second place. I'm sure they won't admit it openly because they'll all want to say that I can go for the win at the end of the year. But if Tom Mills maintains this form for the whole season, then there's no reason why they can't. There's no reason why they would be able to overtake him. But there's still battles raging on here. McNeely looking right under the rear wing of Reynolds there. Reynolds, of course, in that black and yellow Elite Motorsport machine. Then we're looking at McNeely now in the orange and white Fox Motorsport machine. The gap at the front,
it's come down.
Yeah, it's definitely not opening out. Let's have a look at the sectors.
It's definitely come down because
Cooper Webster is 2 tenths faster in the middle sector alone than Mills. So again, potentially some different setup options between the cars. Maybe Mills has gone with a slightly lower tyre pressure, thinking he might want to be faster at the end of the race, or potentially Webster's found a little something between the first race and the second race, and hopefully that gap closes down as Webster sets the fastest lap of the race by, again, nearly 2 tenths of a second.
Fantastic, yeah, he just got lost out a little bit in that final sector, but he's still closing his way down on the race lead, as we can see. Confirmation, Kulkarni got dropped back behind Clifford. Darianani as well dropped back behind Alva, and now has the pressure on his shoulders from that freshly repainted Graham Brunton racing car for this round, by the way, and I think it looks fantastic of Harry Burgoyne Jr. It's a top effort repaint.
Yeah, it does look great, that GBR car, Graham Brunton Racing in for Harry Burgoyne. It almost looks like the Alfa Romeo Formula 1 car in its sort of in its style, and it looks really good. And we've got a good looking grid of cars here. We've got, of course, the two cars that look very, very similar in the KMR Sport and the Evans GP teams, 1 and 2 at the moment. You can see at the front that is a KMR Sport car in first place for Tom Mills, number 21, closely followed by Cooper Webster for Evans GP, both black and sort of a grey and blue, but you can tell the difference because the KMR Sport cars have more stripes down the centre.
Yeah, and it's especially from the front, the Evans GP car you can see there has more blue on the nose. Awkwardly from the side, the KMR Sport car has more blue, but yeah, that's absolutely fine. They're both very similar, but I like both of them. Again, the Fox Motorsport livery as well looks really, really good. We'll not talk about liveries ad nauseum though, because otherwise it will drive everyone at home crazy. As we'll look at the battle there, Derry Nani trying to keep Harry Burgoyne Jr. at bay. Tom Mills across the line then. The gap this time by once again it comes down, but look at the final sector by the way between Mills and Webster. Absolutely identical, 34.017. But over the whole lap, Webster did close it down again.
Yes, he did. Gap down to 0.6 from a second, 2 laps to go. So 0.2 a lap for the last 2 laps. If he can continue this, then maybe we'll see a repeat of the pressure that Mills had to soak up last time out, and maybe this time he might crack as we see some fighting in the background, Lewis.
Yeah, no, I think it was actually Colin Queen had run wide again. Now do remember, Colin Queen did pick up a post-race penalty, 5 seconds for exceeding track limits too many times. Now he did look quite wide there coming out of the old hairpin. I was almost wondering if he had a mistake going into it, maybe a little bit of oversteer, something like that, that just pushed him out a little wide. It's so easy to do so. Obviously we saw Kulkarni having that issue towards the end of the previous race, but Queen is not being able to keep up with Webster and Mills at the moment.
Yeah, well, we saw, of course, as you said, Queen got those penalty, but so did this car that we're looking at now. McNeely as well got a 5-second penalty. As we see, that was Irfan taking a wide line through
Reynolds.
the second. Reynolds, my mistake, yeah. Reynolds in the elite car taking a wide line through the Fogarty S and going over those big blue curves, which can definitely damage your car, as we've seen what happened to Dylan Hodgson, who hasn't made out for this race. So that won't be a comfortable ride, and has also cost him some time. He's now under pressure once again from McNeely. And that's Burgoyne making a good move up the inside of, that's our new driver, Kai Darianani, isn't it? They go side by side to the last corner, and that's a lunge also by the Fortec car. That is Ruhan Alva, I believe, going up the inside.
Also, McNeely's absolutely going for a move on Reynolds. This is it. I saw it in the foreground coming through the final corner. McNeely's going to send it around the outside. There's almost contact between the two. That's brilliant stuff between McNeely and between Reynolds. So up to 4th position goes McNeely into the first corner. Fairbairn's also sat off the rear end, as is the returning Irfan as well. Sat behind him as they race their way down towards the old hairpin. This could be a mega send from Reynolds, though. He's gone out wide and too wide. It's going to cost him 2 or 3 spots, and potentially even into the barrier. He's going to go for a full 360, and that was a costly mistake from the Silverstone race winner.
You can see him gesticulating to himself, frustrated at his bold manoeuvre on the outside, which was speculative at best, because the old hairpin is so fast. Normally one line, if you're half a car offline, you just end up on the marbles, especially with the GT cars and other series going around today. You know, it's so much less grip when you're just off the racing line, and unfortunately that caught him out in that instance. I will be interested to see though, because McNeely went around the outside of turn 1 and definitely left the racing surface to complete that manoeuvre. Ended up with 2 wheels way over the curb and his other 2 wheels over the white line. So be interesting to see if the stewards pick up on that, and he could potentially...
That was scary.
Could potentially be at risk of receiving a 5 or 10 second penalty for gaining advantage by leaving the circuit.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, this is Alva in the green highlighted Fortec car. You've got Kulkarni in the blue highlighted one, and all trying to keep Sid Smith at bay in the green highlighted blue and orange. This car right here, the number 99, the Fox Motorsports car. So a little bit of a fight back down the order for 9th, or what will now be 8th position. Let's take a look. You talk me through it.
So, yeah, Harry Reynolds looked around the outside of the old hairpin. McNeely didn't even do anything really. He just took his normal racing line. Then Reynolds realised by the time he was in the middle of the corner he was fully committed and couldn't back out, and he was off the circuit. You see 2 wheels on the gravel, and once you're on the gravel you're just a passenger effectively. The car bouncing around. These cars have got such a low ride height that as soon as you get on that gravel you're just basically on a skateboard, and that was the end of Reynolds' race for that position. He's still going, which is good to see, I believe.
Yeah,
he's still going round, but he's now in 13th place and way off the back, 2.8 seconds off the back of Darianani in 12th.
Could he have damaged the floor of the car?
I think it's unlikely because it's all grass there. If you hit a curb is where you normally damage the floor. You know, the edges might be a bit fluffed up from the gravel because you can get a bit of gravel rash, but he should be absolutely fine. The team will do a quick scan over the car after the race, I'm sure, but he'll be okay to soldier on for the rest of the race unless there's any damage to the suspension, because that's kind of the weak point if you go off the circuit in these cars, is if you go off and hit a rut and the car sort of bounces down. you can often bend the push rods, because these cars, of course, are made for lightness and speed as well as reliability. But if they are outside of their normal working range on tarmac, it often causes can often cause a bent rear wishbone, which then means he'll have to come in the pits. But he's still going. What's his last sector looking like? 34.4. So yeah, he's still on the pace of the group that he was in. Although talking of sectors, Queen was fastest in the middle sector on a 34.1, a tenth faster than our leader, and almost 3 tenths faster than Evans in second place. So this group at the front, the top three, once again coming down.
Yeah, I think the problem is I think Webster made a bit of a mistake in sector 2. Fastest first sector from Colin Queen in third position. The gap's actually opened up, because look who has the fastest lap now. Tom Mills set at 27.753 on the previous lap. That was a quarter of a second faster than Cooper Webster. There is confirmation of that in the bottom right of your screen. So Tom Mills in that number 21 KMR sport car, looking for his 4th win of the season. And I said before, earlier on this broadcast, you might have caught it, you might not have. At the moment, as far as what I've seen on the website, as far as what I've seen on the points, he has a 55-point lead after 6 races.
More than a race win, of course, 35 points for a race win.
He's closing on having a weekend clear of the field after just 3.
Nearly, and we know that KMR Sport team and Tom Mills and his family work hard to get the budget to go racing and make sure that he can get out there. And he's, even since the last round, is saying, we don't know if we've got the budget to finish the season. He really hopes he can, because it would be great for him to win this championship and potentially go on to move on to different things. I believe we might have some sort of lovely shots potentially coming up.
Super slow, man.
Yeah, we'll have a look at. Here we go. So yeah, coming through the fog of TS's, Tom Mills completely committed there. Look how much curb he takes. Just right between those two. That is precision. You see the car moving about. See those yellow bollards? They're just slightly lower than the blue ones, and you can see the car wobbling around, and that was precision driving from all 3 of them. Look, getting right up to the blue bollards, which you definitely want to miss, and then onto the yellow ones, which are a bit flatter. You can see Harry Reynolds sliding through there. I love a super slide.
So good.
Oh, Reynolds. You can see Reynolds, when he hit that blue curb, it threw the car into the air, and then the car bottomed out, and he definitely not good for your lap time, and also not good for the underside of your car or suspension, that's for sure.
No, I've got to say, though, Tom Mills, there is no surprise to me that he's the one that's able to get his front left in that tiny gap between the 2 curbs, because we've commentated on Tom Mills for now, almost a year and a half, and in all of that time, his spatial awareness versus the track surface, bearing in mind, we obviously commentated on GB3, GB4, his spatial awareness as to where his wheels are compared to the track surface, I think is the best in GB4 and GB3. He has such an affinity as to where the wheels are. He is perfect, as Harry Burgoyne Jr. said, it a little bit too much over the curb.
That's those blue bollards. I think bollards, they're not bollards, they're more like sort of speed bumps. I don't know what you'd call them, but they are definitely raised quite high, and these GB4 cars run so low. But yeah, you're mentioning that Tom Mills, of course, having a very, very good awareness of the outsides of his car, because we saw, especially, I don't know, a good shot was Snetterton last year into the Agostini hairpin. He could hang his outside of his front right tyre over the edge of the circuit, as we have a battle now between Irfan and Clifford. Fairbairn, might say.
Yeah, certainly is. Fairbairn just about trying to hang on to that 5th position. Clifford just off the rear end. If there's any mistake between these two, Clifford will be absolutely a part of it. He said, we heard from him in the interview and stuff, how frustrated he was after the issues in the previous race, just running out wide and costing himself. Basically, it was a silly mistake, just overdrove Redgate a little bit. Obviously, it's a little bit sketchy when you've got 3-4 cars up your inside and all that but he is closing in. He's in 7th position at the moment, so running quite well. But at the moment, we're focused on that battle for 5th. For the race lead, once again, we will just touch on it a little bit, as we've got 5 minutes and 15 seconds left to go in this race. Should be around about 3 or so laps, might even be a little bit longer. We did get that extra bonus lap, and if they're running the same pace, which I think they pretty much are, we might sneak in a 4th lap of racing, which I'm absolutely okay with, because right now the top 3 is getting closer and closer.
It is getting closer. Half a second at the start of this lap, but visually that gap between Webster and Mills at the front is looking less than half a second. And who's got the fastest lap of the race, Lewis?
Oh, well, it looks at the moment it's going to be Colin Queen.
Colin Queen is the fast lap. So that group again coming together, as we saw this morning, but of course with 2nd and 3rd places reversed. This time, of course, Webster having the better start and doing a great manoeuvre. He's now chasing down to try and take the win. Webster, as we know, very fast in the simulators, races for the Oracle Red Bull Racing simulator team on is it iRacing? Yes,
he mostly does iRacing. He's done little bits on R-Factor 2, including a couple of rounds of Le Mans Virtual Series and stuff. He's well experienced on the sims. Again, mostly to the point of, I remember when I found out that he was racing in this championship, I genuinely couldn't believe it. But he has done a lot of racing over in Australia and stuff. He's done a fair amount of racing in some crazy cars as well. But coming over here into the GB4 Championship and trying to put his absolute rubber stamp on the European racing market, on the British racing market, as we can see Tom Mills once again driving it in on the last lap time. By the way, I'm just going to touch on it a little bit because it is, as commentators, this is exactly what we want. Third was faster than second, second was faster than first, which means the entirety of this group is getting closer and closer, and Colin Queen just set the fastest first sector of the race as he is applying all the pressure. We said before in the previous race that these three were not separated by very much, and they are not separated by very much once again. It does seem as though this is going to be the case for the weekend, and I'm okay with it.
That's absolutely fine by me. We mentioned Cooper Webster, of course, has got some serious simulator experience, but that's not to diminish any of his real-world racing experience, of course, largely being in the Australasian continent with him being from Australia. But he's racing the S5000 Championship for a couple of years, which is a ridiculous single-seater. Cool. It's basically like effectively a GP2 car with a 5-litre V8 engine. They're crazy. Mad. And he's also done some car racing dating back to 2018. So he's not a complete rookie in terms of car racing in the real world. But we were just mentioning the fact that he races at the highest level on the simulator, and also is racing at a hugely high level now in real life in a championship which is getting more and more competitive with every year that it continues on. And we're seeing how competitive it is, with these three at the front being inseparable in terms of pace, so much so that they can't actually pass each other.
Yeah, they are like locked together. Like, this is not, I know some people might watch this and think, oh, this is a dirty air, it's keeping them apart. But yes, there is dirty air in these cars, fair enough. But I think it's more just a fact of they're just not making any mistakes. They're doing the same thing. Now, Cooper Webster in the middle of all of this, obviously I'm sure he's keeping an eye on exactly what Tom Mills is doing when it comes to track limit excursions. He did point that out post-race when Jon Jackson was interviewing him on the podium, how frustrated he was about the top three causing track violations and stuff. It did get him promoted up to second place. So
yeah, it's clearly justified because he saw what was going on, and as Jon said,
penalty's been dished out.
You've got the best seat in the house behind someone on circuit. You know exactly where their wheels are because you're watching to see if they make a mistake. But of course, the marshals and steward teams and race directors do as good a job as they absolutely can, and will catch almost all infringements, but they can't physically keep an eye on every single car for every single corner of every single lap. So sometimes it goes unnoticed, but you are flirting with danger and the danger of penalty if you are leaving the track surface. But this gap at the front is still so close, just half a second. Let's look at the last lap out. Yeah, the last lap, 28.0 for Mills, 28.0 for Webster. A slight mistake, it looks like, in the last sector for Queen, dropped him back half a second, so a huge second between the top three now.
Yeah, and also for those, when we're talking championship-wise, because everyone will be like, oh, Tom Mills has cleared off the distance, he's got a 55-point lead, he's almost cleared out to a round, basically ahead of everyone already. And yeah, that is true, but as we remember from last year, this can change quickly. Yes, Webster was out wide going through McLean's. He's definitely going to lose out time. Remember, he lost time in the second sector a few laps ago as well. We're on the penultimate lap of this race. We will get one more after this. Webster's pushing it to its absolute limit, but I just get the feeling that Tom Mills has the measure of Webster, as Mills had the measure of Queen in the previous race.
Yeah, you can see by the sector 2 lap time, or sector 2 times, Mills on a 34.3 and Webster on a 34.5, which doesn't sound much difference, but in one sector 2/10 is indicative of that mistake he made.
In these kind of cars as well.
Yeah, and that's we heard from Kevin Mills of KMR Sport, the team owner, and of course Tom Mills' dad as well. And he said, the experience that Tom got last year that he's taken into this year has been the difference, he thinks, because he said that potentially last year Tom would have gone for a silly move or potentially would have made a mistake and lost a place, whereas he's just driving metronomically. I mean, that lap again, the last lap, 27.9, only 2/10 off his fastest lap of the race.
Yeah.
All of his sectors are pretty much exactly the same, and he mentioned, Kevin Mills that is, mentioned that the value you get in that second year in the championship, and Tom's really making the most of it. Hopefully maybe more drivers will be considering it for a second year next year.
Yeah, certainly so. Obviously we're seeing a black and white flag. What is that for?
Black and white flag is a warning flag. That will probably be for track limits.
Yeah.
You get a warning, a final warning, I believe, and then the third offence will normally then be a 5-second penalty. That is number 17. Let's have a look.
17 is Reynolds.
So, of course, Harry Reynolds pushing on from the back of the field after his mistake earlier on. That's not really going to make a difference to him, I don't believe, because even if he does get a 5-second penalty, his nearest rival is Lee, who is a lap down, or 25 seconds behind Reynolds. So Reynolds will be disappointed with this race. Of course, he was right up there, looking very racy, but it shows how fine the margins are. Make one mistake and you can be that far down, but these three at the front still lapping within hundredths of each other.
I mean, I am so impressed with these three at the moment, because through the 2 races that we've had so far here at Donington Park, they've not been separated by very much and they've not made any real mistakes.
Saying that, mistakes, that is another poor sector from Webster in the middle sector, half a second slower than both Queen and Mills, and he's now very much not in the middle of these two. He's given Tom Mills a gap and he's under pressure from Queen.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, out of the final corner, Tom Mills is going to go, so he is going to cross the line to take his 4th victory of the season. Webster just able to keep Colin Queen at bay, but I do mean just. He was struggling towards the end there. McNeely across the line in 4th as we wait for the likes of Fairbairn. Irfan on his return to the championship. Clifford and then Alva and the likes behind. A fantastic race between the top 3 once again. Any tight margins across the line? The answer's no between some of those in the background. Harry Reynolds did almost close his way back up, but once again, how many superlatives can you throw at this driver?
Yeah, Tom Mills is showing that he's got the car underneath him. He's driving well. The team are doing a good job on the setup. They've actually managed to get the car in the engine in the car overnight to allow him to race today, and it's paying off because 2 wins today, so that's effectively a win from Silverstone, and then of course the first would have been the first race just now at Donington, so he'll be hoping to carry on with that tomorrow for the race in the morning, and then of course it all changes for the reverse grid tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, certainly so. Of course, the reverse grid, I think it accounts for 12 cars if memory serves, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. We'll take a look at provisional results then from round 7 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Tom Mills taking his 4th victory of the season, his 2nd one realistically of the weekend. Webster and Queen join him on the podium once again in the same position they were in the previous race. McNeely and Fairbairn 4th and 5th, Irfan in 6th, and then we get Clifford, Alva, Kulkarni and Burgoyne Jr. rounding out the top 10. Behind that, Darianani on his debut will finish in 11th position. Sid Smith, after a very good first race, unfortunately a bit disappointed with the second one here, finished in 12th position. Reynolds with some early issues in 13th, and then Lee rounding out the field in 14th position on the grid. Indeed, some big dramas for them, but for Tom Mills, that 55-point gap increases once again. He is absolutely phenomenal, dominant this season. He has not made any real mistakes. Now, we'll just also say that 55-point gap is not to Colin Queen. So as much as you would think it's gone out by 6 points, 35 points for victory, 29 for second, it's gone out by even more than that, because Colin Queen is 3rd in the championship, a further 4 points behind that, so he's 59 points off, so it's gone out by even more. And the driver that currently is 2nd in the championship, or was 2nd in the championship before coming into this, was McNeely, who finished in 4th position. And so it's somehow even better so far at the start of this weekend than Tom Mills could have possibly imagined. 2 races done on a Saturday then, unlikely or uncommon for GB4. In fact, a very much a first for us, having 2 races on a Saturday, and both of them belong to that driver there, the championship leader, the KMR Sport driver of Tom Mills. We did hear from Kevin Mills that the truckie now has to basically owe the entire team some ice cream, which I think on a beautiful Saturday afternoon like this, going into a Saturday evening, there is nothing better. We'll see if Cooper Webster's slightly happier after this race than he was after the previous one. Remember, he was very frustrated with Colin Queen, and I think a little bit towards Tom Mills as to their track excursions. He was keeping an eye on them all the way through that race, and I'm sure he'll be keeping an eye on them all the way through this one as well. He's been a wily old fox as Cooper Webster, and certainly having his best round of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC so far. Ollie Dutton having a chat with Colin Queen, of course, the Fortec team principal. And the team owner, Richard Dutton, as well. I don't believe he's here, at least not here today. Might be here a bit later on the weekend. A bit of a handshake there between Tom Mills and Cooper Webster. We'll hand down to John to have a chat.
Yeah, well, I'm here with Tom Mills, who's making a little bit of a habit of winning today. That's one race won earlier on at Silverstone here at Donington, and now you've won the first race here at Donington. So more of the same, and another dominant performance from you.
Yeah, it's hard out there. It's hot. these two keep putting a lot of pressure on me. I was just, like same as the last race really, just trying to hit my marks, trying to not make any mistakes, and yeah, I still had a bit of pace in hand at the end when I made a little gap, so yeah, fantastic days here.
We've heard a couple of rumours before the race, and these are the big questions. We heard from one member of your team that if you win, you're buying the ice creams. We also heard from the big boss man that if you win, the truckie's buying the ice creams. Can you confirm who's buying the ice creams from Mr. Whippy now?
If I did the double win, then the truckie's buying the ice cream, so that's why I went so fast, so I didn't have to buy them.
Okay, right, so that was a case of money. But Tom, that was super impressive, and we'll wish you the best of luck and see you tomorrow for 2 more races here at Donington. Tom Mills with the KMR Sport Your Race winner. The cars, very interestingly, are a little bit further forward, and they're on a little bit of a slope, so we've just got to make sure we don't get hit by a car here. I'm just going to come over to how you doing? Are you right?
Yeah, good, thanks.
So, Cooper, you were like, one place higher than you finished before, but actually that's your second place today, so you must be pleased.
Yeah, I'm very pleased. That was a good race. That was probably one of my best races in GB4 so far. I think I had, at least in the first half of the race, I took it to Tom there and challenged him. But the tyres took it, and it just wasn't there in the end. But yeah, I gave it my shot.
You did indeed, and obviously, we talked before about issues with track limits. You were happy with Tom's driving there. Was that all cool?
Yeah. That one was much better. I think that was all right. I think I was all right. I couldn't see Colin, but it was much better.
Yeah, showing some great pace. So you've got a couple of third places now, I think it is, or maybe 3 third places. No, in fact, you have 2 thirds, 2 seconds. So next it must be the win.
Who knows? I mean, that's easier to say, but hard to do on track. So right. I'll give it my best shot tomorrow, and hopefully we tune up the car again, like we made a step then, and just see how we go. 2 more races tomorrow. Lots of people watching back home. Mum and Dad are home. There's probably like 3 a.m. there. They told me to give them thumbs up when I was got on the podium, but everyone's watching at home, so. It's the support from there is really nice. Excellent. We'll let you go and celebrate with the team, get your trophy as well. Cooper Webster, we're going to take a look at his tyre. I mean, you said the tyre took it. I mean, look at the tyre. It's toast. That is a tyre that's done. No more life in that. I don't think so. No, congratulations, P2 for Cooper Webster there. We're just going to come around and find Colin Queen here. Hey Colin, another good race with you battling at the front there. A little bit disappointing with what happened with the penalty from before, but another podium is another podium.
Yeah, no, another podium's another podium. Yeah, no, we had a bit more pace in that, but just overheated the rears a bit, and look at them. They're a bit sad to say the least, but it's good pace. I think we got fastest lap, so I won't settle for third at all, but it's still good points, and I'm on the podium again. Yeah, we've just seen with Cooper, the tyres really took it on all 3 of these cars. You can absolutely see what's happened out there. Track was something like 34 degrees at the beginning there. 2 more races tomorrow. Feeling confident about that? You got a good position on the grid tomorrow? Yeah, no, we have great pace, consistent as well. So if I could just get a good launch, a great launch off a pole tomorrow morning, it'll definitely be good. I got a mediocre start in this race, and then everyone else had a mega. So. Yeah, if I could just do exactly what I did this race, except get a good start, that should be good. That's it. Well, you're starting at the front tomorrow, so it's going to be interesting to see. Colin Queen with Fortec Motorsport, another good drive from him. I mean, you can see the tyre degradation here. I mean, I don't want to touch this because I imagine it's very warm, but you can see the marbling on this tyre here. Absolutely ridiculous. We're going to talk to Piers a bit more about the tyres because we did discuss what the track at 34 degrees would do to the tyres around this track, but it's definitely tyres at the end of their life there. Another exciting GB4 race here, and Tom Mills really driving incredibly well. He does have that experience of racing in the inaugural season last year and the GB4 Championship, doing very, very well, and the team won the championship as well, so they know what they're doing. Let's watch him pick up another race win trophy as we head to the podium with Lewis McGlade.
Yeah, certainly so. I did see the KMR Sports team before this race had pulled out almost 100 points on the championship lead going into the 7th round of the season. They're looking very, very strong for it, and with Tom Mills running on his pace at the moment, they're looking really, really good to go back to back when it comes to teams championships and the GB4 Championship partnered by the BRDC. Of course, a lot to talk about in that race. We'll let our podium come out. The first of those will be Colin Queen, who, as John kind kind of alluded to there, will start from his first pole position in GB4 tomorrow morning. Now, is this third place a bit of a confidence booster? Does he know that he's got the pace? Because I think certainly from the outside we can see Colin Queen has the pace to take victory tomorrow. Into second position, it'll be Cooper Webster. Of course, he did finish on the road in third place, but then got promoted into second after Colin Queen's penalty in the previous one. So it's a second consecutive second place. And speaking of consecutives, speaking of second consecutives, it is back-to-back victories for Tom Mills as he sweeps Saturdays here at this super Donington Park. Onto the top step of the podium once again, taking his 4th victory of the season. And again, a reminder, that is his 6th overall in GB4, showing that he is a superstar and certainly the man to beat on the grid. All onto the top step of the podium, and again, photographs, videos, and of course, their trophies. We'll take a look though at highlights from the race. Highlights from round 7 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Tom Mills once again starting from pole position, but it was actually a good start from Cooper Webster, getting past Colin Queen on that race down into the first corner and going up into second position. Harry Reynolds also with a decent start, trying to keep them company in that 4th position in the Elite Motorsports car, but Tom Mills started to clear away. Harry Reynolds had a bit of pressure from behind as Liam McNeely in the Fox Motorsports blue and orange car was trying to find his way through up into 4th position. Meanwhile, the top 3 were closing their way back up. McNeely down the inside of Reynolds, a tough fight between them, which was separating them from all of the grouping ahead. Tom Mills was starting to pull away at the front, but he was being reeled in by Cooper Webster as the fight for 4th position was absolutely enthralling. McNeely all the way around the outside of Reynolds, and then this mistake from Reynolds, trying to send it back around the outside of the old hairpin, all the way around the outside he would go. Unfortunately, it was a no. Out wide, he'd spin round and drop back to the rear of the field. Meanwhile, at the top of the field, it was absolutely electric. Fastest lap after fastest lap. Tightest margins you could possibly imagine as Colin Queen was closing in on Cooper Webster, and Cooper Webster in turn on our race leader. Sid Smith out wide, costing him a position and dropping back down to 12th. Meanwhile, Tom Mills, final lap of the race, coming through the final corner to take his 4th victory ahead of Webster and Queen. A brilliant drive.
GB4 Media Pen once again, and we've got Harry Reynolds. Harry, thanks for coming and chatting to us. I know what was after a difficult race, frustrating for you, but just talk us through what happened. I could see you were trying to move a good battle with McNeely, but unfortunately ending up not where you wanted.
Yeah, me and Liam were having a good battle. Yeah, he unfortunately got me into turn 1, and then going back down to old hairpin, I went for the outside, and there was a bit of dirt there, and unfortunately I spun. It's the way it goes, we're going to keep fighting tomorrow and for the rest of the season. So,
yeah, you were trying hard, clearly pushing on, and it was a good battle between you and Liam. It was pretty clean. You mentioned it was a bit dirty on the outside there. You only probably were about half a car width off the racing line, but just discuss how that felt and what led to that you ended up going off.
Yeah, we're all on the limit here. And even half a car length off and just that little bit of dirt, and it just takes you over that limit. So yeah, just having that car on the inside just makes it so much more difficult.
But all part of the learning experience. Is your first season in slicks and wings single seat, a bit different to what you drove last year, and are you still learning things in terms of the racecraft with these cars as you go along?
Yeah, definitely with a Ginetta Junior, you're always like bumper to bumper, but in this, if you make contact, it's a wing or a wheel gone, so you've got to be careful.
Yeah. Anyway, Harry, thanks for chatting to us. I'm sure you'll learn from it and come back stronger than ever tomorrow, because you had some great pace yesterday. We've got Jeremy Fairbairn once again. Jeremy, thanks for coming and chatting to us again.
Yeah, of course.
You had front row seats for that incident with Harry, unfortunately.
I did, yeah. They were battling pretty closely. I had thought something was going to happen, so I kept close, but not too close.
Yeah, and that obviously paid off when you managed to get the place off Harry. You're on the back of Liam McNeely. Didn't quite have the pace to get him this time.
Yeah, Irfan was right up on my tail, and he kept me on my toes for sure that whole race. So I was just defending him off for the most part. But yeah, if he was a bit farther back, I could focus on ahead, just getting to McNeely, and potentially could have gotten a P4, but P5 from P9, I can take it, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good race for you, and you mentioned you were under pressure from Irfan. How do you defend a position around here?
It's pretty difficult around here. There's a few passing spots that are pretty lethal, like high-speed stuff as well. So just hold mid-track to inside line and get him into a position where he can't really hold it around the outside. And the wash is so strong here as well because of the high-speed corners. So after that, he can have some wash, and then you can get a chance to pull away. But it's really just under braking is like the best opportunity to make some overtakes. Yeah.
2 races tomorrow, reverse grid as well. What are your hopes?
Starting P8 race 2, so that should be some carnage involved in that, but just got to keep my nose clean and focus on the task ahead.
Focus on the task ahead indeed. Thanks for chatting to us once again. We'll see you again tomorrow. I believe we've got... we've got anyone else?
Yeah, we're going to get Thomas Lee to come in here. He's coming in here.
Brilliant.
I'll just been chatting to him. He's got a really
You can
interesting
chat
story.
to him.
Come in. No, it's all right. You can come into the middle here.
Okay, all right.
I was just saying, just while Piers was chatting to Jeremy there, you've been pretty busy flying around, and you just got straight here, and you were straight in the car. So just basically just sort of say what you were telling me off camera.
Well, honestly, I'm overwhelmed, I have to say. I literally flew in on Thursday, got my rental, drove about 40 minutes from Birmingham to Donington, and literally hop on second session like right on time, So I have to say, schedule's been pretty hectic.
I bet.
It's been pretty crazy, And but I do have to say, I'm glad that I had Wednesday meal with my boys before I flew out. So. Yeah. It's good family time.
Yeah, we said on the grid, you probably couldn't hear Piers, but we were saying that balancing your business life, your family life, and your driving means that you've maybe not done as much sim racing on this Donington track as maybe you would have hoped.
Yeah, so it was funny. I don't know if I should say this, but I literally did about 30 minutes of sim before I flew out. So I'm very thankful, very blessed that I have a very great team. They were able to guide me through. Throughout the process, so that's why besides being a quick learner, but you have a big family support team, there. So
well, you're generally a lot of the drivers in this championship are quite young and they're up and coming. And I mean this in the nicest way possible, but you're a little older than the rest of the grid.
Yeah.
Talk to us about you've got a very unique story of why you're here, what you're doing here. Just tell us a bit about what you do outside of your racing, why you're racing GB4, and also how you've got here, because you're not British either.
Oh no, I'm not, definitely. I do have to say that I've been wanting to come out to the UK to compete for the longest time, especially being able to experience like Formula 1 tracks like Silverstone, like from round 2. It was an amazing experience. But I've been doing a lot of like time trials when I was younger, back in the States. But being the only child, my dad doesn't allow me to compete, so that was a bit unfortunate. But at least I feel like we only live once, right? So
absolutely,
it's one of my to-dos, and I'm so happy the fact that I'm fulfilling it at this very moment. So I have to say, cherish the moments, appreciate life, and enjoy life.
Well, look, we appreciate you being here, and we love your unique story. We'll let you go and do what you need to do. But thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time in your very busy schedule to chat to us not only on the assembly area, but also here as well. Thomas Lee, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll chat more as the season goes on, and also making progress. And I think GB4 is great because we have so many different stories. We've got kids coming from karting, we've got kids coming from other series where they're driving what people consider normal cars, and then coming into the single seaters.
Yeah.
But also then you've got Thomas with his story here, and we can in the background now he's having lots of laughs with people, and it's a really nice community.
Oh yeah, I mean you can tell Thomas is having the best time, and I think he's got his own business and runs things on the side. That's how he funds his racing,
I believe.
Oh my goodness,
that's why he's so busy.
He's a busy man. That's allowing him funding to go racing, because as much as the GB4 Championship is very affordable, it takes money to go racing, and a lot of these drivers are up and coming racing drivers. They've got either family funding or sponsors, and they want to go the distance. And we spoke to Rob Barth, who's the driving standards steward, and he said these are the drivers, some of them that will go all the way to Formula 1 or even great things in different parts of the motorsport. And then you've got the likes of Thomas Lee, who wants to race a competitive championship, but potentially that's not his goal, but he still loves coming here, and we're great to see someone so enthusiastic about the championship as well.
And look what he's doing, he's having the best time.
The best.
One question before we go, we do have 2 more races, which I'll tell you about in a minute tomorrow. We were looking at the tyres just there in the Parc Fermé. They are ruined, and I mean, is there any concern going into tomorrow about the tyres? Because they've taken a real battering on this track today with this nice weather.
With the lovely weather, the high track temperatures, the new surface here at Donington Park this year, which is a lot more abrasive and more grip, but also probably eats the tyres a bit more. I haven't actually driven it myself, but that's what I'm hearing. The tyres, they're not going to explode. They're not an existential crisis, but there's definitely going to be a loss of lap time if you've been abusing your tyres, and that's not only in the way you drive it, but also the way you set up the car. So potentially the order might change a little bit tomorrow. We'll wait and see.
Absolutely. We might take the polo round when the track's cold later on.
Oh yes.
Then you can say you've driven the new surface at Donington Park. So I mentioned 2 races tomorrow. We have the reverse grid race coming up later in the day, but the next appointment to view is, I reckon, 10 o'clock in the morning, because the stream will start shortly after that. But if you get the stream loaded up at 10, You're not going to miss anything at all. Sometimes the change of the starts of these races can change, and we don't want you to miss anything at all. We'll bring you our full pre-show as well. We'll be chatting to some more of the drivers in the paddock here in the GB4 Championship. But really, it's been Tom Mills's day so far. 2 race wins from 2 races here at Donington Park, but he's got a couple of guys very close behind him, one Australian, one American, who might cause him some problems tomorrow. 10 a.m. is the next race time in the GB4 Championship tomorrow morning. We will see you then.